Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to another edition of International Forum. I am Wilson Marshall. Well, today it is about the role of the U.S. as global police. How effective is the U.S. now as the world police? Don't forget that when we talk about trouble between Russia and Ukraine, the U.S. is mentioned, has been mentioned, just like a broken peace or help Ukraine defend territorial integrity. You talk about Taiwan, China, distress. The U.S. also has been mentioned, trying to make sure that Taiwan's integrity is not tampered with. And now the latest, Israel, Hamas in Palestine, is like the U.S. moving fleets towards the sea in support of Israel fight against Hamas, not Palestine now, against Hamas. If you take a look at the world, you tend to feel the presence of the U.S. here and there. Now, recently, it was a week ago, a U.S. fleet bombarded some terrorist groups, so to speak, at the Syrian border. U.S. world policing. How effective are they really in carrying out their duty? Before I introduce my guest, I want us to take a look at some stories making rounds globally. Let's move straight down to what is happening briefly between Gaza, or let's say within the Gaza Strip. Yes, Palestine, they're like, crying. They are saying that, look, we are not Hamas. But Israel is saying, Hamas group, they are there within you, and we are coming with our ground troops to make sure that we take them out of the map. They are saying that it's a war against Hamas or Palestine, but everyone needs to move from south to north for them to do their job. What is that job? Ground fleet, moving from one point to the other, eliminating any form of threat. For what Netanyahu said, he said, look, the war will not end soon. Ending the war right now will not happen. You know why? Hamas are provoking Israel. They brought us some clip about them burning Israeli soldiers. They brought out a clip about two ladies under Durex talking negative against Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, how provocative can that really be? They brought some clips also on how they were shooting, executing Israeli soldiers. So if they really want peace, with the right format or the right method to seek for peace, why are we provoking a lion? The lion is already angry, still provoking the lion. How do you think Israel will listen to what the UN is saying, ceasefire? The more they bring out this clip, the more they tend to blame Netanyahu, and the more they tend to push his troops forward. Go sweep all these enclaves. The captive captured by Hamas might be in one of these enclaves. That is the reason, according to Netanyahu, the ground sweeping is important. He said if we don't apply pressure, Hamas will not release the hostages. But if those videos have to be verified, some of the hostages, according to report, have been killed because of an open execution. So why keep further provoking Israel? Don't forget Iran's warning. He said, look, there are consequences if this is not checked. As Iran is saying all this, Hamas is still bringing out pictures, videos. I mean, so it's like they don't even want the war to end. And Israel has been constant with that bombarding. The question is, after this war, so to speak, do you think Israel will take part in rebuilding this region destroyed? Is it going to be desolate? How do you think Palestine will recuperate? Like what Benjamin Netanyahu said, he said the war will not end soon. And no thanks to Hamas, they're provoking Israel by dishing out so many horrific videos on how they are torturing Israeli soldiers, how they are treating the hostages captured by them from Israel on the 7th of October. How do you think all this will come to an end? My pain is that the innocent ones that are crying are not Hamas. Really, they are not Hamas, but they are being affected. Children have been killed. Husbands have been killed, wives have been killed, AIDS persons have been killed. Because when the lion is angry, whoever it comes across goes down. That's what is happening right now. But please, we try, Israel should just try to at least exercise restraint. Come on, exercise restraint. Over 8,000 killed already. Exercise restraint. All right? Moving away from what is happening between Israel, Gaza, the war against Hamas, let's move straight down to what is happening between Russia and Ukraine. The war is on. And U.S. begging your pardon, are like, blaming Russia on what is really, really going on in Israel and, of course, Gaza. Okay? Now, this is what happened. In this country, the Gaza, to speak, in Russia, majority populated by Muslims, a state in Russia, over hundreds of mobs got so angry and they marched towards airport looking for planes coming down from Tel Aviv, looking for Israelis or Jews. They want to vent their anger on them because of what they felt is going on in Gaza because of the war between Israel and Hamas. It got so tough, it got so bad to the extent that it took police in Russia quite a while to quell that mob action. Over 60 was arrested because of this same extension of Israel-Hamas conflict. And of course, Putin, he blamed the West for what is happening right now. He said the West didn't handle this thing properly. They didn't cancel Israel properly. They didn't cancel Hamas properly, because whatever is happening right now is a fallout of the war between Israel and Hamas. Now, the Muslim community in Russia, in the Gaza, they are angry. They say they want vengeance, that Israel should stop. If they don't stop, they might just lay their hands on any Jew they see in that particular region. But thank God for Putin, thank God for diplomacy, thank God for the stiffness, or will I say the dominance of the police to really bring everything under control. The big question now is, are Jews safe outside the territory of Israel? Because Israel appealed to Russia and said, look, protect all Jews in your territory, all right, as the war against Hamas rages on. But you can see that we have a called sympathy reaction to what is happening between Israel and, of course, Hamas. The big question now is, when will all this stop? When will all this come to an end? Is it going to be fight to finish? Will there be anything left in Gaza after this war is over? Or do you see repercussions all over the globe targeted against Jews because of what is happening between Israel and Hamas? Because Israel is telling its country around the world to please protect their citizens. But what if they are close to Islamic states? What if they're close to people that have this sympathy towards Palestine? What will happen then? If this is not checked, it may just lead to a global catastrophe, which Putin predicted. But we pray that that should not be the case. Now, finally, on the news around the world, China chose to place sanction on Japan's seafood because of the squabble they have in the Pacific, Asian Pacific. Yes, for Japan not to feel the impact of the ban, so to speak, they have to start buying Japan seafood to counter Chinese ban. You see now you see how to really counter international relations in respect to economy, because that is the mainstay of Fukushima in Japan. They are mostly fishermen. They go out there to fish to get seafoods. But now China, the greatest importer of their seafood, is not happy with what Japan is doing with the U.S. They choose to place a ban on the seafood. Now, to help their ally, you just have to come in. But the big question now is, how much can the U.S. chew? How much can they spread themselves globally as the world police? For how long do you think they can maintain the peace? And that will bring us to the topic of today's discussion on International Forum. With me here in the studio, I have a legal practitioner, political affairs analyst. Join me to welcome Barrister Emmanuel Obakpolo. Barrister, welcome to International Forum. I appreciate your coming.
It's a pleasure being here. Good afternoon, Wilson.
All right. After the attack by Osama bin Laden, late Osama bin Laden, September 11, it was declared that the U.S. is the police of the world when they launched an all-out offensive against terrorist group. They went to the Middle East looking for how to quell any form of terrorism, and some pundits say it was that action that gave rise to ISIS. The U.S. and their allies, they fought and fought and fought against ISIS until ISIS was subdued. They now scattered into a splintered group, going from place to place, still wreaking havoc. And now U.S. also is in the middle of trying to maintain global peace. The war between Russia and Ukraine, they must mention U.S. The war also in Syria, then they mentioned U.S. The Afghan war, U.S. was mentioned. Right now, Israel, Gaza, Hamas, U.S. is also mentioned. Come on, how do you think all this will pan out, knowing fully that the USA is like wrapped up in this responsibility of becoming the world police?
Yes, Wilson, it is not strange to bookmakers and some of us that in every crisis around the globe, the United States of America is mentioned. Because if you consider the book written by Weterem titled Tomorrow, immediately after the fall of France in the 1940s, the United States of America came, rescued, and intervened. Now, let me take you back to memory lane. The World War I, between 1914 and 1919, little issues triggered the war, and there was no umbrella power nation to keep that war so that that war wouldn't have taken place. There was no protection. And that gave birth to the Second World War. We now had an organization, international organization called League of Nations that emanated immediately after the First World War in 1919. And before you know it, the League of Nations couldn't maintain war peace. If you calculate arithmetically between 1919 and 1936, 35-36, when the Second World War came up, you discover that it was just 20 years gap, less than 20 years before the Second World War. And the League of Nations couldn't curtail the Second World War as it were. The Second World War came, and immediately after the Second World War, France fell, and France was defeated. So you did not discover that there was no international nation to maintain world peace, as it were. So nations gathered, nations were now looking for a superpower nation whose policy would be to maintain world peace, or whose policy is to put forward world peace. And immediately after the Second World War, the international organization known as United Nations came up, led by the United States of America. And if you look at the foreign policy of the United States of America, the foreign policy of the United States of America is world peace. Now, why won't such a nation whose policy is to promote world peace be world police? And that is the reason why immediately after the Second World War, rather, the United States of America became known as world police. And I think that nickname suits them, because even to this very moment, as we are just now, just as you have adumbrated in your introduction, you made us to understand the war between Russia and Ukraine. The name of the United States of America is mentioned. The war between Taiwan, so to speak, and China,
the rest, yes.
The United States of America is mentioned. Now, we have Israel, Hamas. Though some persons say it's Israel, Gaza. Some, even out of sentiment, religious sentiment, have tagged it Israel, Palestine, or Palestinian war. The name of the United States of America is mentioned. I think the name of the United States of America is the right name to be mentioned, because she is the world police. And if you look at just now, the war, particularly in between Israel and Hamas, is more like a war between Israel and a terrorist organization. Now, Who is Hamas? What group, what caliber of persons make up Hamas? And internationally, what is the recognition given to Hamas? I want to tell you just now that internationally, Hamas is known as a terrorist group, just like the Hezbollah. And all of these countries have this connection to Iran. And you know, there is this tight face or long face between the United States of America and Iran, particularly in the 90s when Iran attempted to invade Iraq. And America came in and stopped Iran from invading Iraq. And since then, there has been this Cold War between these two nations. And you know, human being, our nation, the nature of human being is that once you have crisis with ABC, you now choose to align with XYZ and build a purported bilateral relationship with XYZ. And that is what we have seen countries like Iran. They've tried to build relationship with Russia, who sees America as an enemy. They try to build a relationship with China, who just now is seen as a trade competitor with the United States of America. Though some persons try to give it other nomenclature, but I see it more as trade competitor with the United States of America. And the economy of China just now is growing faster than that of United States of America, perhaps because of the patronage they have from the world. Now, be that as it may, United States of America has not ceased to be known as world police. Because just now, the United States of America has contributed to ensure that the terrorist group called Hamas is either wiped out from the surface of the earth or taken to a very tight corner where they may not be able to promote their agenda. And you know, this type of agenda, religious, so to speak, agenda, is that of the mind. So the question I ask, is it that those who try to fight terrorism will want to explore a situation where there will be a surgical operation on the minds of the terrorists? And I think the surgical operation of the mind that can be used to ensure that the agenda, so to speak, in their mind is wiped out is to also let them understand the nature of human race.
All right. The nature of human race. Now, from your own assessment, you give a wonderful background of how it all started from the World War. They came in, changed the tide of the war, and the world was at peace. UN was giving birth ever since then. Yes, has been the forefront with 4 other nations to make sure that there is world peace. From your own assessment, compare the US of yesteryears in terms of war against terrorism, maintaining global peace, and the US of nowadays. Do you think they're of the same tempo in terms of their effectiveness in policing the world?
Yes, I think so. But we also would want to consider the development of science and technology. If you look at it just now, Wilson, science and technology is not static and it's not peculiar to a particular nation. It's not particular to the United States of America. China has grown technologically and scientifically. Russia has grown technologically and scientifically. Other nations, even Iran, who projects an Islamic front face, is also growing technologically and scientifically. And that will now make it to be tougher for the United States of America to handle other nations of the world in terms of their assurance or in terms of ensuring global peace. Because as much as each nation grows technologically and scientifically, just as the United States of America is growing, then there will be this room for competition. And that is what we are seeing just now. That look, we can compete with any part of the world. Nation ABC is saying, look, we have grown scientifically and technologically. So don't you think we can test? And that is what you see with North Korea. North Korea is developing every day by the second. They come up with nuclear weapons, they come up with ballistic weapons, missiles, they come up with different degrees of missiles because they are growing technologically and scientifically. And so they would want, there is this temptation to test
their weapon, their strength.
Yes. So because of that, if United States of America, under the guise of United Nations, does not ensure that, look, we maintain decorum, we maintain peace, we maintain a standpoint wherein we would want to prohibit or give approval to a particular kind of crisis or war. If we don't do that, then we may lose grip of everything. So in order to achieve a certain degree of world peace, just as the world is enjoying just now, if you look at what's it, from 1939 to today, it's a long time. It's a long time. And that is a sign that the United States of America has been able to maintain world peace for over 60 years. In fact, for over 80 years now, they'll be able to ensure world peace. Unlike what we had between 1919 and 1935, then 39. That epoch, as at that time, was very, very small compared to what we have now, a longer time. I think there is an assurance that the effectiveness of United States as world police is guaranteed just now.
But some persons differ from your views and opinions, saying that if they are as effective as you claim they are, how come they tuck tail and run from Afghanistan? If they are as effective as you claim that they are, how come they tuck tail and run from Syria? If they are as effective as you claim that you are, how come also they're becoming selective in which war to get meddled in on how to maintain law and order? Why is it so?
You know, Wilson, when people talk cheap. But when you are at the forefront of what is really making the rounds, as at the time that round is made, you discover that it's cheap to talk and difficult to act. So, the United States of America, at a point in Afghanistan, was accused of trying to promote a particular religion as against the religion that was intact and in place in Afghanistan. And you know, the United States of America is not a religious nation. Liberality is their watchword. But when it comes to the issue of religion, every person in the world is careful, because you might ignite a generational crisis. And to my mind, I think that the United States of America has been able to ensure that religion is not a standpoint or is not an issue to every crisis that arises in the world. So, by so doing, they try to remove the emblem of religion and ensure that everything is on the ground of liberality, tagged world peace. So, remaining in Afghanistan for so a long time, or staying in Afghanistan rather, for so a long time that she did, I think she has done her best. Because if she, after ensuring that there was peace in Afghanistan, and she continued to remain in Afghanistan, then even you and I will accuse them of a religious bias. And because they don't want to be accused of religious sentiment, it was time to pull out. 2, economically, the United States was going down. Because when you engage in war, you also engage in spending of money.
Yeah.
So, at that time, United States tried to look at our economy. And she discovered that our economy was dwindling. And the singular reason for the dwindling of the economy was because of the war she engaged in Afghanistan. Spending more money. And you know there was rehabilitation also in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And the rehabilitation was carried out by United States of America. So at that point, she now thought it wise for a withdrawal. Likewise, what happened in Syria. And you know some of these assumed competitors of the United States of America, they have a way of fueling crises and tag those crises with religious emblem, so that at the end of the day, there is a possibility for a gang up against the United States of America. And then I say for the United States of America, being who she is, does not want to be familiar or have an or embrace or romance, as the case would be, with any emblem of religion. So, for that singular reason, she thought wise for a withdrawal in Syria. And when it came to the crisis, the war between Russia and Ukraine, you know, we've come here many a time to give our opinion on the nexus, the blood connection between Russians and Ukrainians. These persons are brothers and sisters. And when you, who is the third man, going into to ensure that there is calmness between two brothers or two sisters, I think you are the one that needs more carefulness.
All right, now you just will come back to you after this break. Don't go away. We will definitely be right back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Joining us. This is International Forum. We're taking a look at the effectiveness of the U.S. as world police. With me here in the studio, he is a legal practitioner, a legal affairs commentator, both local and international analysis. Is well-grounded barrister Emmanuel Obakpolo. You're giving some antecedents of the U.S. why they did what they did previously. But some are saying if there is no U.S. vested interest in a particular conflict, you don't see them.
I agree absolutely.
So, take it up from that angle.
Yes.
World police, they are being selective in what they get involved in. Is that true policing? Or just interest they are looking at for their own interest?
Listen, unfortunately, it is only in Africa we see an African country or most African country carry out engagements because of the benefit of a few and not the benefit of all. It is only in Africa, particularly in Nigeria. But that is a discussion for another day. When you look at being world police, as claimed by the United States of America, she should have interest, vested interest, particularly interest that will ensure the promotion of our economy. And that's why I did say from the outset that immediately she discovered her presence in Afghanistan, immediately she discovered that our economy was dwindling, she did what? Quickly, there was a withdrawal. Because as at that time, there was nothing to be achieved or accruable from Afghanistan to boost the economy of the United States of America. Instead, other nations like China, like Russia, like North Korea, started developing. And the economy, particularly China, economy started growth, rapid growth. And the United States, because there was this propaganda and campaign I jealously use the two words, propaganda and campaign, against the United States of America being involved in war for a selfish interest. So, most of the states of the world now shifted attention to China rather. And China wanted to use that as an opportunity to boost our own economy too.
But the policing ought to be selfless.
Policing.
You call yourself the police of the world. People are like saying that they're no longer saying selfless as in the USA. They are saying selfishness. Whatever doesn't really concern them or be of interest to them, you don't see them there.
Well, we see, when your economy is very strong, your policing will be selfless. But the time that your policing is now affecting your economy, don't you think you need to do something? Because the strength of engagement in wars is your economy. Because by the time your economy goes down, would you have the capacity and ability to engage in wars? The answer is no.
So you're saying they are right by being selective? Is
no.
that what you're saying right now?
No, I'm not saying they are selective. I am saying
but
that
they are selective. According to Pondry, they are selective.
Listen.
Some are saying that if that particular country in question doesn't have oil, doesn't have minerals, doesn't have something that the U.S. can really tap on, you don't see them there. That's the allegation right now leveled against the U.S. by some pundits.
Well, if that is the...
And there was, hold on now, and there was even a skit in that regard. The moment they're calling, hey, people are down here, U.S. America, please come up, a skit. Nobody answered. When I said there's oil where here, just comes, that's the U.S. jets. Now that is how the propaganda has spread across the world. As he mentioned oil, you get to see that jet just coming in that particular skit.
It may not.
And that seems to be the picture the world is now seeing about the U.S.
It may not. Okay, let's take for example, the Iran-Iraq war. Iran has oil. Iraq has oil. But U.S. came in to promote peace. True or false?
At what expense? Who was bankrolling that feat? Because some are of the opinion that U.S. tapped enough oil from that soil to sustain the campaign.
Listen, Wilson. People will always talk cheap, particularly when your engagement is to promote world peace. Those persons who accuse the United States of America for their engagement for selfish purposes, what have they done? Just now, we saw Russia invade Ukraine. For what purpose? Is it not for the selfish purpose of a man called Putin, who is the president of Russia?
He said it's for a cause for national security.
What national?
That's what he said.
It's still his interest. United States will engage in any form of crisis. At the same time, they spend their time and money. Russia has invaded Ukraine. What has she done in terms of the benefit for the Ukrainians? What has Russia done? Absolutely nothing. Instead, we see bombardment left, right, center. We see capture. We see the taking over of the property of Ukraine. Is that not also for selfish purpose? That is why I'm telling you that, look, there is no form of engagement, you may choose to call it war, that any nation, particularly the superpower nations, find themselves or swim into without their economic growth. Absolutely not.
So you're saying they're right in being selective. They're right in being looking out for those countries with minerals, with oil, where they can tap into, even while doing their job of ensuring that there is peace, stability in the globe. Is that what you're insinuating right now?
We see, when there is crisis, there is room for failure, there is room for promotion. The weapons being used by those who engage in the crisis, who produced them?
Some people are accusing the U.S. of weapon racketeering, that they sell weapons to these countries to fight some more.
Even Africa suffer most, or more. Yes, I am right. Africa suffer most. This little crisis we're having now in Nigeria, the terrorism, the banditry, the kidnapping, the weapons, where are they coming from? Is the United States, does the United States surround Nigeria? The answer is a no. We have other countries that are neighbors to Nigeria. And this weapon racketing, like you called it, passed through all of these nations into Nigeria.
Come to Nigeria.
Why are they not stopping them? It's for their selfish interests. So, interest first. Every engagement, there is an atom of selfishness, whether by the United States of America or any other country. But I don't want to look at that just now. What I want to look at is whether the purpose for which these engagements are done, is it for a larger interest of the populace of that particular nation? Take for instance, the Israel-Hamas war. People were on their own, carrying out their festival. There was no form of provocation. Then you go there, you killed the people, you brutalized them, you took some captive, and you started torturing them, and upon that you are showing the clips of their torture to the whole world. And you say that does not sum up to cause provocation? I think you will not be fair to those people. That's why when some of us sit down and begin to give it religious flavor, I did mention on this platform that look, in Israel you have Jews, you have Christians, you have Muslims. In Palestine you have Christians, you have Muslims. And every one of them is engaged in this war, particularly the Israelis. So, do you know better than them who have chosen to protect the territory, the sovereignty of their nation called the State of Israel? Or, and I'm sorry, with all due respect to them, that's why I want a situation where the Palestinians will come out and say, look, we don't want to have anything to do with Hamas.
Can they say that?
Good.
Can they say that? Because right now, they are at edge right now.
If you cannot say it, you suffer for it too. You disconnect yourself. Because you are a sovereign state. You cannot allow some group of persons to run down your state.
Because right now, Hamas in that region, they're in charge of government.
That is the problem. Even look at Lebanon. Look at Jordan. These are countries that surround Israel. And you find these groups in them. Even Hezbollah. So what are we talking about? So, and now you see the United States of America as a world police would want to kick out every form of terrorism if they can.
If they can.
Yes, if they can. Because it has grown deep. It has grown into something that has to do with a campaign of the mind.
But some are blaming the U.S. for this state.
Look, let me tell you. Just as we have seen just now in the news flash.
Yes.
We saw that the governor of Borno State is now complaining, shouting that children
should not be recruited by this terrorist group.
Can you imagine that? Is that done by the United States of America? Or which country? So, well, to some of us, we see some of these things as signs of the end time. But the question we ask is, why must it be that signs of the end time must begin with us?
All right. If you take a look at the world right now, you get to realize that U.S. has been at loggerhead with major world powers. China, Russia, these two strong world powers. Is it really healthy for the U.S. to have this confrontation, to have this conflict with his world powers? Some are saying it's not healthy for the U.S. Others are saying it's to prove superiority, and they'll not color it with maintaining world peace. Take it from that angle.
Well, I think one should also think of the fact that, like I did say, that there are competitors. And you know, a competitor is a jealous man. It's a jealous entity. Because the competitor will be looking for ways to bring down the person it is, or she is, or he is competing with.
Competing with, yes.
So, on that ground, there is room for propaganda, because you don't compete without employing the instrument of propaganda. So propaganda is an instrument to be used to compete. And that is why we are seeing, that is what we are seeing the whole world is experiencing or witnessing just now.
Right now.
Because the Russia that is talking about, the China that is talking, is also interested in becoming world police.
But they never said that.
They will not say it.
Because they are saying they want to create this balance because of the excessive nature of the U.S. Because they are saying that the one that maintains the balance, because somewhere along the line, the Security Council, 5 of them, they need to be done to veto yes or no, to oppose what the U.S. is saying, to create that balance of power.
Why is China now threatening to invade Taiwan? Why? Is it not because she has vested interests? Is it not because she wants to boost our economy?
Now they are saying that Taiwan is their territory.
Taiwan is their territory. Is Taiwan?
And they said they will come back later. That was many years ago, according to the Chinese history.
Now, is Taiwan a sovereign state just now? Just like Ukraine? Is it a sovereign state? You invade the sovereignty of a state, and you are saying once upon a time it was your territory. Nobody is disputing that with you, whether or not it was your territory. But just now, what is the position? It is a sovereign state. It's like when Nigeria threatened to invade Niger over the military took over in Niger.
Yeah.
And you saw the outburst. Now look, Niger is a sovereign state. You don't invade her.
Or now back to the conflict. Is it healthy for the U.S. to have this conflict with this superpower? Don't forget that North Korea.
It cannot be healthy.
And they call that man, Kim Jong-un, the rocket man, according to former president of the United States of America, Donald Trump. He calls him the rocket man. Is now among the axis of evil, in quotes. Is it healthy for the U.S. as a position of world police?
It's not. It cannot be healthy for the U.S. And that's why the U.S. on our own would want to prove supremacy. You see, some of these engagements she finds herself, she makes some of these countries allies, so that by the time some of these competitors choose to strike, she will also have those who will be in support with her. That is the game plan. And I think the United States of America is wiser to have come up with that kind of policy, because indeed just now she has tried to ensure world peace, and I think she's doing her best.
Right now, how do you think U.S. can navigate this terrain right now, trying to maintain world peace, when it seems as if they have been accused of so many things by these world powers? You get to hear North Korea jettisoning the warning of the U.S. as it testing their weapons, and U.S. not doing anything about it. Some are saying in that regard, U.S. like, weakening or dwindling in strength in terms of policing the world. Take a look at Russia. They gave a very strong view that if any plane should fly across a particular border when the war started, it is going to be, in quote right now, hell on earth for that particular country. And no country ventured that. And in Syria war also, U.S. said, look, you can bombard. Russia very say you cannot do it. And U.S. backtracked. In that particular war, U.S. left the country. All this telltale sign. Do you think the power of the U.S. globally is really dwindling?
There is a possibility to that extent. But because, like I did say, then remember, science and technology is growing by the second in some of these developed nations. Unlike the developing nations, where you have the only development is in science and technology is embezzlement. In these nations, they don't embezzle. And even if you do, the system has a way of catching up with you. It may be only for a matter of time. But when you look at it generally, hence there is development of science and technology in global community. Even the U.S. needs to apply some caution for her to maintain her name and also to maintain her position. It's not in every war that the U.S. should engage in. That is the truth. If North Korea chooses to engage the United States of America in war, the United States of America should apply some form of diplomacy, because already she's in war in virtually everywhere.
Everywhere. People are saying that it's too much. This might affect them negatively.
So, no, the negativity must come. Whether you are right or you are wrong, there will be negativity. Because, like I did say, you have competitors everywhere. And the competitors will use the instrument of propaganda to show that they run these people down so that they will now have support from other countries. And at the end of the day, the intention of that supposed support that they need is also to act even worse than what the United States of America is doing just now in global community. So I do not think that any person or persons or the United States of America should get worried over the campaign making the rounds by some of these competitors with regards to their selfishness in engagement or promotion of what.
So talking about campaign and propaganda, some are saying the U.S. have this knack of forcing democracy down the throat of some countries, that democracy will not work. They're trying to put their own way of life, their style, everything, force it down the throat of these nations which may not be willing, or democracy, so to speak, is not their own system of governance, hence destabilizing that way of life. That's an accusation leveled against the U.S.
Take, for instance, in Syria, under
Assad,
you can see the system of government there. It was not theoretical, it was not religious, it was just a selfish purpose, for selfish purpose rather. That was how it was. And as against the interests of the majority of the people. And let me tell you, some Syrians, educated Syrians, were even the ones who went to meet the United States of America so that there could be what? Liberation in their own country.
Are they liberated now?
They are.
Because Assad is still there.
They are.
Assad is still there. And there's still some places that you have war in Syria. You still have so much Russian influence right now in Syria after U.S. talked to and ran, according to some reports.
Good. That brings to the fact that even Russia, who is an accuser of the United States of America, is not really meaning well for the generality of global community. It's not meaning well. There's also selfish interest.
But according to reports, because since Russia came in right now, there seems to be peace in some area in Syria.
Peace as against the liberation of the people.
What liberation peace? Or American-induced democracy?
It's not American-induced democracy.
Because that was what really caused the war. They said American-induced democracy is destabilizing the way and life of these people. Hence, you get to see skirmish of this terrorist group rising here and there to revolt or to fight against that mentality of the U.S.
As the mentality that they claim to fight against, is it a better mentality than the one they promote in their country? Where you don't have right for anything. To an extent, I think the liberation being promoted by the United States of America is that of liberation. The liberation is a clear one, where every human being has what? Integrity. But in their countries today, I don't want to mention names, there are countries that the citizens of that country don't have any form of integrity. Take, for instance, the invasion of Russia in Ukraine. Does Russia promote the integrity of Ukrainians? The answer is a no. Because if you promote the integrity of Ukrainians, you will not invade Ukraine. Were there people that were killed by Russian military force? The answer is a yes. Did Russia destroy things in Ukraine? The answer is a yes. Then, why Russia, who is a destroyer, now accusing America for trying to indoctrinate other countries with their style of democracy? Is it not better to indoctrinate with your style of democracy than to kill and destroy? So you see that it's a master plan or a game plan by the so-called accusers to have their own style.
Their own style or the people's style.
Their own style too.
Their own way of life.
Yes. That is the position. So I think just now, You cannot, the United States of America may not be able to give 100%.
But they're doing their best.
But yes, that is the position.
Now, to close a wrap on this show, what advice do you have for the U.S.? Because like what you rightly said, tech is going haywire. A tech can upturn the outcome of a war. However, in this dispensation, have the most powerful, the most sophisticated technology, one way or the other, tend to rule the world.
That's why just now, we can see that the United States of America is very powerful in terms of technology. And one thing about her, she carries out her technology secretly. Unlike what we see in China, others, there is this loud talk of how we have developed technologically, how we have developed scientifically. But in the United States of America, do you hear that? No. So I think the United States of America will still remain the world police until maybe something happens before the end of time. But just now, I want to use this platform to encourage her that our foreign policy on the promotion of world peace, she should continue on it until the end of time comes.
Thank you so much, Brother Samana Bakbala. It's like you love the U.S. to a fault. Well, you've heard him. We took a considerate look at the effectiveness of the U.S. in world policing. We delved through so many situations right now globally, and it gave us strong reason why the U.S. retained a particular position despite the advancement in technology, because a tech can upturn the outcome of any situation. But you can't take it from the U.S. They are doing their best possible to make sure that you have global peace despite the shortcomings in some angle. But holistically speaking, imagine a world without the U.S. Where do you think the world will be? Question for you to ponder on. Once more, appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming. We'll do this again next week, Tuesday, God willing. Bye for now.